The 2000s were a special time period in the history of gaming. In this time period, many great games came to be from many different series. Age of Empires 3, as continuation of beloved Age of Empires 2, Warcraft 3, which became way more popular compared to its predecessors, Star Wars Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy, Dragon Age Origins, the first Mass Effect, Knights of the Old Republic games, Morrowind and Oblivion, and much more. And then there is Total War. Since its inception in 2000, the Total War franchise has occupied a unique position within the strategy gaming genre. By combining turn-based grand strategy with real-time tactical battles, Creative Assembly created a unique gaming experience unmatched by most other strategy titles. Over the years, the series has evolved, spanning eras from ancient Rome to feudal Japan and even fantasy worlds such as Warhammer. Despite all of this, many players and critics continue to regard Medieval 2 as the pinnacle of the franchise. This enduring reputation is not rooted in nostalgia alone, but in the game's balance of depth, immersion, player freedom, and modding longevity. Medieval 2 remains to be the best Total War game, and remains relevant for 2 decades. One of Medieval 2's greatest strengths lies in its campaign design. The game provides a strategic map that encourages long-term planning without overwhelming the player with excessive micromanagement. Provinces feel meaningful. Each settlement matters economically, militarily, and politically, which makes territorial expansion a calculated decision rather than a foregone conclusion. The campaign mechanics strike a near-perfect balance between simplicity and depth. Systems such as public order, religion, culture, population growth, and economy are interconnected but intuitive. A newly conquered city may suffer unrest due to religious differences requiring priests, garrisons, or time to stabilize. The campaign, which is turn-based and starts in the 1080s, allows the player to play as one of 17 factions from the time period and build their nation economically and militarily in order to conquer other factions. Gameplay consists of controlling the faction's military, economic, and social systems in large campaign maps. During the player's turn, armies, fleets, and agents can be moved on the map. When an army engages another army, the player can choose to fight the battle personally in the battle mode or auto-resolve. The goal of the campaign depends on which type of campaign is played. The short campaign requires the player to defeat 1 or 2 enemy factions and control at least 15 settlements, which is quite similar to Rome Total War. The long campaign requires the player to control at least 45 territories and 1 or 2 significant cities, such as Jerusalem, Granada, Rome, or Constantinople. There are 2 different types of settlements: castles and cities. Cities primarily focus on buildings that boost one's economy, while castles primarily focus on buildings that allow for the recruitment of more advanced types of soldiers. Certain buildings and settlements can also allow the player to recruit agents that fulfill certain functions, like diplomats and spies. Under most circumstances, the settlements can be converted from one type to the other. Settlements can be governed by members of the player's family, who are also capable of leading armies as generals. The talents of family members and other key characters are affected by various statistics, like piety and loyalty, which are in turn impacted by their character traits, personal experiences, and members of their personal retinue. For example, a character with a high command stat can be expected to do better in battle than a character with a low stat. Diplomacy, although not as good as in Three Kingdoms, is still good enough. Alliances, marriages, trade agreements, and ceasefires have values, and they matter. The Papal States system adds a unique political layer for Catholic factions, forcing players to balance aggression with religious approval. Failure to obey the Pope may result in excommunication. The Pope may also call crusades against hostile settlements. Muslim imams with a high piety may similarly declare jihads. Religion is central to this immersion. The struggle between Catholicism, Orthodoxy, and Islam is not merely cosmetic but deeply embedded in gameplay. Crusades and jihads function as massive geopolitical events, drawing factions into large-scale conflicts with significant rewards and risks. Participating in a crusade can accelerate expansion but also leave a faction vulnerable at home. Very important feature are also the real-time battles. Units behave predictably, formations matter, and terrain plays a decisive role. High ground, forests, river crossings, and city choke points will affect battle outcomes. In Medieval 2, it is important to emphasize the things like positioning, morale, flanking, and timing. Morale is very important. Battles are often decided not by annihilation but by breaking the enemy's will to fight. A well-executed cavalry charge into an exposed flank can cause a rout, rewarding tactical foresight rather than brute force. Of course, you can still use brute force and destroy an enemies on the battlefield. Siege battles are another area where Medieval 2 excels. While modern Total War games often struggle with repetitive siege layouts, Medieval 2 offers multi-layered castles and cities that feel distinct and defensible. Attacking a fortress requires careful preparation, siege equipment, and patience, while defending players must use choke points to slow an enemy army. Another reason why Medieval 2 is the best game is the degree of freedom it grants players. The game avoids overscripted narratives and restricted mechanics, allowing campaigns to unfold organically. Each playthrough generates unique stories shaped by player decisions. Characters gain traits based on their actions, creating emergent personalities rather than predefined heroes. A general may become renowned for chivalry, feared for cruelty, or corrupted by ambition. These traits influence public order, diplomacy, and battlefield, reinforcing the connection between strategy and role-playing, compared to Troy or Warhammer games which emphasize on legendary lords. This freedom extends to faction progression. There are no rigid tech trees or scripted victory paths forcing players into specific playstyles. Whether pursuing religious dominance, economic supremacy, or military conquest. Medieval 2 is the most mod-friendly game. There is no other Total War game which can support so many great and interesting mods as Medieval 2. The game's engine and flexible design have enabled the creation of some of the most ambitious mods in strategy gaming history. The mods, such as Third Age, Stainless Steel, EB2, Call of Warhammer, Divide and Conquer, and many other mods have transformed the base game into entirely new experiences. These mods do more than extend replayability. They demonstrate the robustness of Medieval 2's core systems. The fact that the engine can represent Tolkien's Middle-earth, late antiquity, or highly detailed medieval simulations speaks to its versatility. Few other Total War games have inspired such long-lasting creative output, and even fewer remain popular decades after release. While later Total War games have better graphics, larger unit rosters, and more complex mechanics, they often sacrifice coherence and player agency. Games like Troy and Total War Warhammer introduce layers of mechanics that can feel disjointed rather than immersive. In contrast, Medieval 2's mechanics are unified by a clear thematic vision. Moreover, modern titles frequently rely on DLC to complete the gaming experience, which is behind paywalls. Medieval 2 offers a complete, self-contained experience that does not require additional purchases. This makes Medieval 2 a much better option for many players, compared to newer Total War games. Now I'm not saying that newer games like Warhammer are bad, but you know guys, how many times I criticized DLC policy. I even made a video about it, if you're interested. Medieval 2 is the best Total War game, because it achieves a rare harmony between strategy, tactics, immersion, and player freedom. Its campaign design encourages thoughtful decision-making without unnecessary complexity. Its historical atmosphere draws players into a believable medieval world, and the modding community ensures that the game remains relevant and vibrant long after its release. In an era where technological advancement often comes at the expense of coherence and depth, Medieval 2 stands as a reminder that great strategy games are defined not by graphical fidelity or mechanical abundance, but by how well their systems work together to create meaningful player experiences. For these reasons, Medieval 2 is not only the best game in the series, but it is one of the greatest strategy games ever made. Other such great games are without a doubt Rome Total War including Remaster, Rome 2 and Attila, or Shogun 2. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that this video was very informative for all of you. If you want to see more videos, of course, click on like button, leave a comment down below. And if you want to see more content, of course, consider subscribe to my channel. Any feedback, any support will be great for me and for the YouTube channel. And we'll see you later in the next video. So see you later and have a nice day.